Last time we looked at how we can use masking to hide certain parts of a pattern, or use masking to hide everything and just have it show through a pattern or some letters. We're going to look at how we can create your own custom shapes. We used custom shapes to create this sort of bang effect last time using the custom shapes tool. But you might want to have a custom shape that isn't one that already exists here. You might want to be able to create your own. So I'm going to show how you can do that with Adobe Illustrator. So I have Adobe Illustrator open here, and I'm going to say File, New, and mine's just set to do a 4" by 4" area, so I'll just work within that. And I'm going to show you how you can move anchor points in a shape to create any custom shape that you can dream up. So I'm just going to start by using the rectangle tool. So here I can tell I'm in Adobe Illustrator. It does look very similar to Photoshop, but they're great to use together. So here I am in an Illustrator. I'm going to go and choose my rectangle tool. I might have to click and hold to get my rectangle tool. Here is the fill for the rectangle, which is white, and the outside is a black line. I might just choose to make a shape that's filled in but has no outline for this example. And I'll just draw that rectangle out on my screen. So what I can do to make more interesting shapes is you can move these anchor points around. So if I click an anchor point and then click it a second time, I can drag it. I can click it a second time and drag it, etc. So let's try and make a cloud shape. So maybe what I'll do is I'll start by making some of these anchor points curved anchor points. Right now there's a straight line leading in and out of that anchor point. If I push this button here, it converts that to a smooth anchor point, like this. And again, we could do that here. So now we kind of have, almost looks like a loaf of bread if you were to look at it down its side. Let's turn this into like a cloud icon. I'm going to move this one down here, leave that one up here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add some more anchor points to this shape. To do that, I just go up to Object, Path, and add anchor points. And you'll see what it does is it adds a new anchor point between every other anchor point. And now we're going to use these anchor points. We're going to move these new ones and make it kind of look like a fluffy cloud icon. So I'll click my anchor point, click it a second time, and I can drag it down here. I can move these handles as well. If I click a handle, I can move it like this. Sometimes they move independently, like this one is moving now, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to hold Shift to move them independently. Let's do kind of like this. Maybe we'll pull this one in here, but have this puff out like this. And basically you can just keep clicking and pulling these handles until you get what you think is a cool looking cloud shape. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You decide what you think looks like a cloud. Just keep on moving them till it looks like sort of a cute fluffy cloud icon. So there's our custom shape. So now we can use this custom shape over in Photoshop. If I go back to my black arrow and click on my shape, I can copy it and then go back over to Photoshop where I can use that custom shape. So here I've created a mask based on a shape that was available here. I'm going to get rid of that mask for now by just right clicking and saying delete layer mask. Or actually, let's start from the start. Let's create a new folder here within Photoshop. So there's a new group button down here on my layers. In that group, we'll, just like before, fill the background with a pattern. And now we'll paste in that shape we just created in Illustrator. Edit, paste. It's going to ask, do we want to paste in as a smart object or pixels? I'm going to choose pixels and say OK. It's going to make it easier for me to select it. And then I'm just going to drag it out to whatever size I'd like it to be, whatever size I'd like my mask to show up to be. As long as it has this X here, it remains sort of a vector shape. I can even skew it down a little bit if I wanted to make it fill the shape more. But when I push the check mark, it turns into pixels, our raster layer. So there it is. And just like before, I can either select the outside or the inside of my shape to create my mask. So I'll click, and then I can say, choose my group, and I'll say Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection. And it'll hide everything outside. I can turn off that layer, and I'll see that I have a cloud-shaped mask that's showing through only the parts that I've drawn in Illustrator. Now you can get much more sophisticated with this. For example, if you were to look up a picture of an animal, you can find an image of an animal that you think is cute. Something that if you were to think about the silhouette that shape would create, would you still be able to tell it was that animal? So for example, this penguin shape, if I was to just imagine that was a solid black color the whole way around, I'd still be able to tell it was a penguin. Actually, a lot of these pictures. So I'm going to click that picture, I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to copy it. I'll pull that into Illustrator here. Get rid of my cloud for now, I don't need it. I can paste in the picture of my penguin. Now it's really big, so I'm going to scale it down. Object Transform Scale. Let's make it 50% of its original size. I'll move my penguin so it fits in. And then what I can do is I can create an outline that is exactly penguin shaped by doing the same thing that I did with my cloud. So I'll click here on a rectangle. I'll draw it roughly the size of my penguin, but this time I'm going to choose no fill, and I'm going to give it an outline. And just like before, I'm going to start moving my anchor points. But what I'm going to do is move each anchor point so that it's touching the penguin somewhere on its outside. I need to move every anchor point before I continue to the next step. Okay, now just like before, I'm going to ask myself now, does that shape look like a penguin? The answer is obviously no at this stage. And I'm going to say Object, Path, Add Anchor Points to add additional anchor points. It adds one between every other pre-existing anchor point. And then I'm just going to start, again, moving those anchor points, making sure that those anchor points are always touching the penguin somewhere. Every new anchor point needs to be touching the perimeter of the bird at some point. There's a new one there. And as we do this, it'll slowly start to begin to look like a penguin. Object, Path, Add Anchor Points. Oh, remember, when you're clicking it, click it, and then click that anchor point again before you drag it. All right, so now I have a shape that looks close enough for me, for my taste, to this penguin. If I were to shut off my picture layer of the penguin, you'd probably be able to tell that that shape is a penguin. I'm going to click my shape, change my fill, and turn off the stroke. So now I have more or less a penguin-shaped vector. I can copy that and do the same thing over here in Photoshop as I did a moment ago with the cloud layer. So, of course, I'm not sure penguins are the best shapes to show in my example about space, but let's do it anyway. I'm going to delete this layer mask, select the pixels from my penguin, and then create a new mask where I say Layer, Layer Mask, and I'm going to say Hide Selection this time. When I turn off my penguin, there we go. We have a penguin-shaped hole in the universe.